Morning. We want to get started on time, so if everybody will please try to file into the room, we'll get going. On behalf of Colorado Rural Electric Association, I would like to thank all of you for attending our Energy Innovation Summit today. This is our 7th year that we have done this. It is an opportunity for industry stakeholders to join together and exchange ideas and thoughts. We appreciate all of you who are not members of CREA or members of our co-ops who attend this. An important part of the Energy Innovation Summit is the booths you see outside the door. I urge all of you to get one of the little punch cards and go around and get your 10 punches so that you can be entered into the drawing for our, I believe it's a thermostat this year, a Nest thermostat that'll be for the winner of that. I want to thank the coffee break sponsors. They include Elster Solutions, Brian Ehrlich, Guernsey, David Oman, Richard Hinkle, and Angela Aikman, Louis Roca, Rothbert Gerber, and Christie, Tom Doherty, National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative, NRTC, Chris Bradley, National Rural Utilities Cooperative Finance Corporation, CFC, Chip Marks, Western Area Power Administration, Chris Lyles. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Kent, who will have the first panel.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Volume all right? All right. Thanks so much for being here. As Jack said, this is our 7th annual Energy Innovation Summit. We really appreciate you all coming to Denver for this event, and I think you'll have a great day. We've got a terrific lineup of panels and speakers. A couple of introductory comments. Certainly we welcome everybody. We've got a few special guests. I saw State Senator Larry Crowder. Senator Crowder, could you raise your hand right there? Thank you, Senator, for coming. I know that PUC Commissioner Glenn Vaught is here. Commissioner Vaught, are you here? Thank you, Commissioner. I think Commissioner Frances Concilia may be here. I'm not sure. I think she signed up. I haven't seen her this morning. Other special guests, if you all had a chance to wander through the vendors, and you might have come across a couple of the high school students that have their science fair exhibits. And I think that Hannah and Mark may be walking in. But if not, I'd urge you to go see their exhibits. You look at the brain power that's going on in that area, and they're doing a terrific job, and we really appreciate them being here. And then finally, we have a group of honors physics students from Pagosa Springs High School. Where are you guys? Right here. All right. Could you all have a round of applause for the honors students for Pagosa Springs? They're good LPEA customers, right? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get started. I'm just thrilled to have this panel this morning. What we thought we would do is sort of take a nationwide, really, perspective on co-op issues and co-op challenges. And we couldn't have a better group of people to investigate some of those issues than the folks to my left here. I'll do very brief introductions. You've got their full bios in your material. And then what they will do is each talk a little bit about their organizations, and then we'll get into some Q&A. So to my left is Lisa Johnson. Lisa is the CEO of Seminole Electric Cooperative, a G&T, one of the larger G&Ts in northern Florida, serves a large portion of the state of Florida. And Lisa's got a tremendous background in the utility business and in the co-op world, and speaks a lot at these kinds of events. So we're thrilled to have Lisa with us this morning. To Lisa's left is Joe Brannon. Joe wears a number of hats in North Carolina. He's the CEO of the North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation. He also heads up the statewide trade association like CREA. I think you head up the utility supply business as well in that role, and in Greenco, a subsidiary that we'll talk a little bit more about as well. Joe also has an extensive utility background. Both Lisa and Joe are engineers. I believe Lisa's a mechanical engineer, and Joe's a double E, if I recall correctly. And then Sean Taylor from Wyoming. You all know Sean. Many of you know Sean, our friend from up in Cheyenne. Sean is pinch hitting. You may have seen on the agenda that Mike Williams, the statewide manager in Texas, had planned to be here, but Mike contacted me yesterday and is ill and won't be here today. So Sean, 24 hours ago, did not know he would be on this panel. So we're very grateful to Sean for coming down, and we'll look forward to his perspectives on Wyoming issues. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to talk about Seminole. And Liz, if you could get her slides up, I think we're ready to go.
All right, great. Thanks, Kent. And good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here. It's always nice to be in Colorado. I've shared with some folks that my dad grew up here, part of his life. The other part was up in Cheyenne, and my mom hails from western Nebraska. So even though I didn't spend a lot of my life here, this has an element of home for me, so it's always nice to be back. I'm just going to cover a little bit about Seminole and some of the things we're doing. I'm sure that what I'm going to touch on this morning in my opening remarks we'll probably touch on again as we get into the Q&A. But the theme of this panel is to talk about, can co-ops thrive in this evolving industry? And I would tell you from my perspective, we are in the best position to thrive in this industry as it continues to change and evolve. Mostly because of the very nature of what co-ops are, and that is member-driven organizations. And I think that serves us well. It has served us well in the past, and it will serve us well in the future. So a little bit about us. Kent mentioned that we are in Florida. We are the only generation and transmission cooperative in Florida. As you can see from the map, we serve a fairly large geographic area of the state, mostly in peninsular Florida. Through our 9 member distribution cooperative members, we serve about 1.6 million consumers and businesses in 42 of Florida's 67 counties. So fairly large footprint in the state. You can see that our northwesternmost member stretches out to the west side of Tallahassee, which is the state capital. We cross the top of the state over near Jacksonville in the northeast corner, and then all the way down pretty much through the middle and some of the coastal areas down towards Lake Okeechobee. In terms of our power supply portfolio, we have a fairly diverse portfolio for Florida. Florida has some limitations on the kind of generation that's available, given that we are a peninsular state, and we actually, in many regards, in our part of the state, act more like an island in terms of our connection to the rest of the lower 48. But you can see in terms of breakdown, this is what we expect to see here in 2016. We have 2 owned generation stations. We have a 1,300 megawatt coal-fired station in northeastern Florida. We have an 810 megawatt natural gas-fired facility in central Florida that's both combined cycle and peaking generation. We supplement that with a number of different purchase power arrangements with other utilities in the state and other service providers, other power supply providers. And we have a renewable portfolio that is mostly contractual. And we'll be adding to that here this year with some new solar, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So given our power supply portfolio, one of the things that we've been spending an awful lot of time on in the last 2 years is the EPA's Clean Power Plan. This was about a year ago. We were the cover story on RE Magazine, and they came out and spent some time with our folks. This is our plant manager at our coal-fired facility, Seminole Generating Station in northeastern Florida. And you say, well, why are you spending so much time? Well, when the proposed rule came out for the existing fossil fuel-fired facilities, Florida had a target of a 38% CO2 reduction. Given, again, the nature of some limited diversity in the state, limited access to gas resources, we are dependent on 2 interstate pipelines in the state of Florida, and very limited interconnections up into the southeastern region of the U.S. for additional power transmission into the state. This has the potential, and still has the potential, to significantly impact not only our cooperative and our members, but also the state of Florida. So we spent a good year and a half with a tremendous amount of advocacy efforts trying to provide input and really share our views on some of the things we didn't agree with in the Clean Power Plan. And we spent time in front of testifying in front of EPA, in front of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, testifying in front of Congress, meeting with state officials, meeting with legislators at the state and federal level, meeting with the administration, trying to help them understand the perspective of why we thought there were some unique challenges in Florida and where the rule went awry in terms of the way it was put together. The good news is when the final rule came out, that number went from 38% reduction down to 26% reduction. But what I really want to say, and particularly as I sit here in another part of the country, is to say thank you to the cooperative family, to the co-op nation that we are, because one voice in a regulatory push that is this significant, one voice doesn't lend a lot of credence, perhaps, or doesn't get loud enough for those who make the decisions to really hear. But when the advocacy comes from not only us and other G&Ts around the country, but from the whole cooperative base, and trying to address the things that we think are fundamentally flawed or should be changed because of actual evolutionary changes that are taking place in the power supply portfolios across the country, that larger voice makes a difference. And so for that, I say thank you for those of you that were also engaged in the process. So I mentioned that we have a renewable portfolio, and we'll be adding to that later this year. We are embarking on our first solar project. It is a 2.2 megawatt project. It's not a large project, but we have taken an approach we refer to as cooperative solar, where our membership, we have several of our distribution cooperative members, and of course their members that they serve, interested in solar, but not necessarily in a position to invest in it on their own. They may not have the right kind of house, the right kind of roof. They may not live in a residence that even would allow them to pursue a direct investment in solar. And so our cooperative solar project will allow Seminole to build the project. We will own and operate it, and each of our members will get a share of that project. And then they can turn around and in essence, market that solar generation or that product to their membership in whatever way works best for them based on their demographics, their interest level, their membership. So we've deemed it cooperative solar because in essence they see a price from us, and then they can turn around and customize their program for each of their membership base, whatever makes the most sense for them. So we're in progress, we're in construction as we speak. This was also intended for us to really get a direct hands-on experience with solar in Florida, and we're really looking forward to getting some data and some understanding about what the solar profile really looks like in Florida. And then lastly, we've had a lot of solar activity in Florida over the last year and a half, and we have a ballot initiative coming up in our general election on November 8th that is actually looking to change our constitution in the state of Florida to address solar ownership or leasing at the consumer level. And in essence, what it does, if we see a yes vote on this, it will amend the Constitution to confirm that individuals in Florida have the right to own or lease solar for their own use. But it also makes sure that there are appropriate protections in that local and sort of local, county, and even state government has the ability to continue to manage the regulatory process around these types of facilities, ensure their safe installation, their safe operation, and also make sure that for those who participate in the grid in Florida, continue to pay a fair share for what they are, for their level of participation or what they need. So we'll see this come up in November. Interestingly, we had another ballot initiative that just came up in our primary election on August 30th. It had to do with some tax abatement opportunities for commercial and industrial solar projects, and it passed with a 70+% vote affirmatively. And in order to have a constitutional amendment occur, you need a 60% vote from the voting public. So this will be interesting to see what happens in November, along with other things that will happen in November. And with that, I'm going to stop and pass it over to Joe. Thank you.
Joe?